They thought their past was behind them. But sometimes, fate brings people back together when they need each other the most. Michael stepped into the train compartment and placed his only suitcase in the corner. He settled comfortably on the soft lower bunk. Michael loved train travel. The rhythmic clickety-clack of the wheels always calmed him. Outside the window, landscape slipped by in a soothing blur. The only thing he disliked about these trips was the sometimes intrusive fellow passengers. But for now, the compartment was empty except for him. By the age of 40, Michael was considered one of the country's best pediatric heart surgeons. Babies with the most complicated heart conditions were brought to him from all over the United States. It was believed that he was the only one capable of handling the toughest cases that other doctors refused. Michael loved practicing medicine. If he could, he'd spend all his time in surgery, but his role required more. As a doctor, he regularly attended seminars, gave consultations in different cities, and today he was headed to Boston to give a lecture to medical students at a cardiology conference. A close colleague, a respected professor, had invited him, and Michael never refused such requests. Passing knowledge to young doctors was important, and Michael had plenty to share. From the neighboring compartment came the loud laughter of a child, followed by a soothing female voice. The words were unclear, but Michael understood a mother was trying to calm an overly excited little boy. He smiled softly. Michael loved children, but at 40 he was still single and had never found the right woman to build a family with. Perhaps it was due to his demanding schedule. His sister often joked that he was married to his work, and it was true. Michael dedicated 99% of his time to medicine. Though successful and attractive, Michael was used to attention from women. He had his share of brief relationships, but none captivated him long term. They always felt like strangers. Perhaps he was the kind of man who didn't really want a family. But it hadn't always been that way. In his college years, Michael had experienced a great love, one that he thought about every day. Maybe "thought about" is too weak. It was more like those memories lived alongside everything else in his mind, never leaving. They met by chance in the checkout line of a supermarket. The young woman ahead of him had a shopping bag tear and groceries spilled at his feet. He rushed to help her gather everything. She bent down at the same moment and their foreheads lightly bumped, like something out of a romantic comedy. She smiled, rubbing her forehead, and Michael looked into her beautiful turquoise eyes, feeling something stir inside. He made up his mind right then. He couldn't just let this girl go. She too looked at him with clear interest. They packed the groceries into new bags and left the store, chatting about everything and nothing. Talking with her was easy and pleasant. Michael tried to make her laugh. She introduced herself as Emily. He liked seeing her smile and the sparkle in her eyes, as if sunlight was glinting off snow buried deep somewhere inside her. Michael and Emily started dating, and he felt truly happy. It seemed Emily felt the same way. They talked a lot and discovered many shared interests. Michael was finishing medical school, while Emily had graduated a few years earlier from nursing school and now worked as a nurse at a clinic. With her, Michael felt calm and good. Her presence filled him with energy and strength. Emily even inspired him to succeed in his studies and work. He wanted to get on his feet quickly to build a family and provide her and future children with everything needed. He had many plans for their future and often discussed them with Emily. She would smile and hug him during those moments. There was no one happier in the world than Michael. He was considered one of the most promising students in his class, competing in Olympiads, attending seminars and conferences. From an early age, Michael traveled often across the country for his scientific work, but he missed Emily terribly during those trips. He always brought her gifts from the cities he visited, choosing things he was sure she would love. Once, he was sent to a 2-week seminar in New York. Returning home, the first thing he did was visit Emily, bringing her a gift and a bouquet for Grandma Rose, who raised her alone. But something had changed. Emily looked pale and anxious, spoke coldly, and behaved distant. She didn't even hug him when he tried. Instead, she firmly pushed him away. "Let's go outside," she said, meaning to talk without witnesses. They walked to the park where they loved to stroll on warm summer evenings. It was usually quiet there. "We need to break up," Emily said plainly. Michael couldn't believe his ears. When he left for New York, everything seemed fine. At least, that's what he thought. But what could have happened in 2 weeks? Enough for the most important person in his life to say such things. "We're too different," Emily explained. "You have your studies, a bright future, a career, wealthy parents. I'm just different. I grew up without mom or dad. I need something else in life, and so do you." "What exactly do you need?" Michael asked. "I'll make our life whatever you want. Just tell me," Emily said, lowering her eyes and looking at the toes of her sneakers. "Michael, we have to break up. I'm not alone anymore." Michael was stunned, overwhelmed by emotions. He didn't recognize his kind, loving, caring Emily. She couldn't have started a relationship with someone else just while he was gone. It was impossible. "Don't take it too hard," Emily's sister advised. Emily kept staring at her shoes. Maybe it was still hard for her to meet Michael's eyes after what she'd done. "We're young. People come and go," Emily said softly. Michael replied tiredly, "I thought we were different." Suddenly, he felt empty and exhausted. "You're a successful med student, future doctor, and I'm just ordinary." Saying this, Emily turned and walked towards her home. Michael watched her figure leave, then ran after her, begging her to come back. He shouted that he would forgive everything and tried to explain what she meant to him. But Emily seemed protected by an invisible wall he couldn't break through. Michael tried to win Emily back. He waited for her outside her apartment, the clinic where she worked, called her often, sent flowers. He even, like a teenager, wrote a confession of love on the wall of a transformer box outside her window. But she remained cold and untouchable. Gradually, work and studies swallowed Michael, and he gave up. "What's the point of banging your head against an impenetrable wall?" he thought. "Better to put that energy into a field that could help people." Michael started his residency in pediatric cardiology. Before his eyes, sick babies and their worried mothers, eyes full of hope, passed constantly. He knew he could save them, make their lives better and happier. He devoted all his resources to this. Now, Michael was a successful cardiac surgeon, as Emily once predicted. He had saved hundreds of lives. In the operating room, he felt at home. The work gave him strength and inspiration. The joy of seeing little patients return to normal life was incomparable. One day, Emily purposely tore the shopping bag so that all the groceries spilled out. She was hoping the handsome guy would rush to help her. Michael noticed her right as she walked into the store. His determined gaze, confident movements, and a slightly thoughtful expression caught her attention. He didn't stand out much in appearance, but there was something about him that immediately hooked her. Something she hadn't felt before, and she wasn't even sure she fully understood it yet. But she knew one thing. She couldn't miss the chance to meet this man. She was drawn to him like a magnet. He didn't pay attention to what was happening around them, carefully selecting products, clearly lost in thought. The little trick with the torn bag worked. Maybe some unknown law of attraction was at play, where strong thoughts and desires materialize. Emily happily noticed the genuine interest in Michael's eyes. Women always know when a man is truly interested. She could see that Michael liked her. Soon, he took the initiative, trying to impress her in the checkout line. They started dating, and Emily loved everything about him. His sharp mind, passion for his noble profession, and sense of humor. Michael gave her warmth, love, and care, which made her feel happy and protected. It was a wonderful and new feeling for her. Since she was 3, Emily was raised by her grandmother. Her father was somewhere out there, or maybe not. Emily suspected her mother knew little about him. Eventually, Emily was left with only her grandmother. Emily's mother was always trying to arrange her personal life and finally succeeded. She got a proposal from a man in Florida she had been talking to online for several months. The woman happily flew from the gray reality of the United States to a warm southern fairy tale. But it turned out the foreigner wasn't wealthy. In Florida, Emily's mother faced the same everyday and financial struggles. Moreover, the young family soon had several children. Emily's mother didn't support her daughter financially. She never took Emily to Florida. She visited occasionally every 3 or 4 years, bringing gifts, clothes that rarely fit. Communication was limited, and Emily and her grandmother survived on very little money. It was hard for the old ladies. Emily finished nursing school and started working as a nurse at a clinic. She chose this profession because of her grandmother. She wanted to administer her injections herself, so her grandmother wouldn't have to walk on her sore legs to the distant clinic. Then Michael came into Emily's life, and she realized what true happiness was. He became her whole world. She was proud of him and sincerely admired his achievements, and there were many. Michael often talked about their future, promising they would build a strong family. But right now, his studies and earning good money came first. He didn't want to be a burden to his parents or a wife. "We need to wait a little," he said. "Once I finish residency, I'll be taken into a private cardiology clinic. They already invited me after graduation. The pay is good, and they even provide housing. They have a dorm for staff because a doctor might be needed at any moment. Even at night, I could be called to surgery. I need to be close." "You're my best and most necessary," Emily smiled at Michael. She was willing to share him with such an important and needed profession. Her beloved would still save many lives. One day, Emily realized she was late. She took a pregnancy test. 2 lines. She was pregnant. For a second, she was overjoyed. They were going to have a baby. But then doubts crept in. Michael had said so many times that now was not the time for a family. He loved her, Emily was sure of that. But the new circumstances would affect his life drastically. He'd have to find a job, maybe take night shifts, study less, give up research, and eventually become an average doctor, like many others, unable to fully realize his potential, all because Emily had apparently miscalculated her safe days. Emily was sure Michael would never abandon her and their child. She had no doubt about that. Yet she couldn't bring herself to tell him the news. She tried many times, but ended up changing the subject. Then Michael was offered to go to a seminar in New York for 2 whole weeks. Emily decided that during that time, she would gather her courage and tell him everything. Together, they would find a way to give their baby everything it needed without ruining Michael's career. But after Michael left, tragedy struck. Emily was coming home from work one evening. It was drizzling. She was crossing the street at a crosswalk when suddenly a black car appeared out of nowhere. Emily saw the car too late. Its headlights were off, and the driver didn't even think about stopping. She almost reached the sidewalk, but was hit lightly by the car. The small push was enough to throw her against a nearby street lamp. She painfully hit her chest and stomach, then felt her legs go numb from fear and pain. She clung tightly to the lamppost to keep from falling. People rushed over, offering help. Many had seen the near accident, but nobody remembered the car's license plate. It all happened too fast and was too dark. Suddenly, someone noticed blood on her clothes. "You're bleeding. Call an ambulance immediately." Due to the stress and impact, Emily lost the baby. She was rushed to the hospital. The operation was performed just in time, but complications still occurred. The attending physician, trying not to look Emily in the eyes, said, "You may not be able to have children anymore, but don't lose hope. Reproductive technology is advancing rapidly, and miracles do happen. I've seen them many times in my practice." Emily left the hospital feeling empty and angry at the world, including her doctor, Michael. If only he hadn't been so consumed by work and studies. If only he hadn't postponed starting a family. If only he had been more attentive and sensitive. None of this would have happened. Emily decided she needed to break up with Michael. His mind was all about medicine. He wasn't ready for a family or serious relationships. She didn't want to distract him. Besides, when the time came, she wouldn't be able to give him an heir. What kind of family is that without children? No, Emily wouldn't ruin his life. It would be hard, but she had to let go. Michael didn't accept her decision at once. He chased after her, wouldn't let her go, sought meetings. How hard it was to pretend indifference in front of someone so close. More than anything, Emily wanted to fall into his open arms, but she had to master the art of coldness and distance. She even lied that she had met someone else. Michael finally gave up. He never knew they might have had a baby. Soon, he moved to New York to live and work. Emily learned this from mutual acquaintances. His career was going uphill. Emily soon really did meet someone new, Eric. She met Eric right at work. The young nurse was drawing blood from him during a medical exam. Eric was practical, simple, and caring. He was a little older than Emily and behaved somewhat protectively. It seemed Eric genuinely loved the young nurse. He worked shifts at an oil company, spending 1 month at home and 1 month on-site. He saw work as a means to earn money, nothing more. It was completely unlike Michael's passion. This state of affairs suited Emily just fine. They got married and lived in Eric's 2-bedroom apartment. Emily quickly made it cozy, transforming the former bachelor's lair. She didn't love Eric, no, but she liked him. If not for the affair with Michael, she would have mistaken her attachment to Eric for love. But Emily knew what it really meant when just seeing someone makes you happy and fills you with strength. She understood that with Eric, it was different. He was caring and attentive. They spent a lot of time together, and he always helped her grandmother by taking her to the hospital, giving gifts, even fixing the apartment. Practical, grounded, and down to earth, he didn't live in dreams about the future like Michael. Life went on, but a child still didn't come. Emily knew about her diagnosis, but still hoped for a miracle. She thought a baby would make her happier, finally giving her a close family member. Eric wasn't worried about having a child. "We're doing fine as is," he reassured Emily. He had nothing to worry about. In his first marriage, Eric had 2 daughters whom he loved dearly and always tried to give attention to. But one day, a miracle did happen. Emily realized she was pregnant again. She felt the warmth inside her, just like the first time when the ultrasound showed they were expecting a healthy baby boy. The joy was indescribable. As a father of 2 daughters, Eric dreamed of having a son. Emily only wished that the pregnancy would go full term and that they wouldn't lose the baby again. The birth didn't go smoothly. The baby almost suffocated. "Why isn't he crying? What's going on?" Emily desperately asked as she lay on the delivery bed. She saw the doctors rushing around the tiny body, a strange bluish color. Could this really be their son? The baby was taken to the neonatal intensive care unit. For several days, the doctors gave no prognosis, but the little boy survived. Unfortunately, due to oxygen deprivation, his brain was severely damaged. Emily was warned that the child would never be healthy. The young mother looked at her baby and thought, the infant looked no different from the newborns Emily had seen in the ward before. But little Freddy's differences became obvious. He didn't sit up at 6 months or walk at a year. The boy cried a lot, slept little. He needed daily massages and procedures. Emily often spent long hours lying in hospitals with him. By the time Freddy was 2 years old, he was diagnosed with severe cerebral palsy. He still didn't walk, and his future was uncertain. Some doctors thought Freddy had potential. Others advised resignation and predicted regression. Eric couldn't handle this life and left the family. Though he helped financially and left the apartment to the child, Freddy needed more than money. Especially a sick child needs attention and involvement from both parents. But Eric couldn't bear to see his son's condition. In his dreams, the boy was fishing with him, earning medals in soccer matches. In reality, at 4 years and 2 months, Freddy learned to walk only with special support. Eric couldn't stand this reality. Emily didn't lose hope. She devoted all her strength and time to her son, and the results showed. For Freddy, every new physical skill was a brilliant victory. Now, Emily was driving Freddy to his annual rehabilitation in New Jersey. She watched fields and forests pass by outside the window. Her son played nearby. He had just turned 7. Emily had dreamed that by this age they would have overcome all his diagnoses and he would go to first grade like a normal kid. But by 3 or 4 years old, it was clear things were much more serious than she had hoped. It was hard for Emily to accept and come to terms with the situation. But, unlike Eric, she succeeded. Eric, the ex-husband, still occasionally called, suggesting trips to some healer in the countryside, hoping for a miracle. Emily understood him, and she never held any resentment or judgment. Suddenly, Freddy started choking. Emily turned sharply. Her son was turning blue and struggling to breathe. In his hand was a bracelet made of malachite beads, a gift from Victor, still Emily's favorite piece of jewelry. Emily noticed the string had snapped. The beads were bouncing on the floor. Freddy was choking. He had probably swallowed one of the beads. A fellow passenger in the train compartment, a stout woman, rushed to help. "Give him some water quickly. He swallowed a bead," someone shouted. Emily didn't understand why water was needed and tried to figure out what to do. She knew she needed to pat her son's back. The frightened mother desperately started hitting Freddy on the shoulder blades, but it didn't help. He kept struggling to breathe, and it seemed he was losing consciousness. Emily watched her son's face twisted in pain and fear and continued the futile attempts. "Help!" someone shouted. The compartment quickly filled with people. They watched the scene unfold and gave advice. "Turn him over, hit him firmly but gently, give him water." Through the crowd pushed a man who confidently grabbed the boy, laid him face down on his knees, and slapped Freddy several times on the back with the edge of his hand. Then came the clear sound of the bead dropping onto the floor and bouncing under a bench. The boy began to breathe. The wheezing stopped. Emily collapsed on the floor, exhausted as panic slowly faded. The crowd dispersed, murmuring in amazement about what they had just witnessed. "How skillfully you handled that," a neighbor praised as she hugged the frightened Freddy. Then someone stepped forward and said, "I'm a doctor. I learned basic first aid in my first year of medical school. It's not complicated." Emily finally looked up at her rescuer and was stunned. It was Victor. How was this possible? Victor smiled. "You too. I recognized you." He helped Emily up and sat her down on the train's upper berth. "You're still as beautiful as ever," Victor said. He was surprised by the changes in the woman he once loved. She had lost weight. Her eyes were anxious and worried. Victor had seen many such eyes among mothers in hospitals. Emily explained the reasons for the changes as she sat beside him. "Cerebral palsy," Victor asked. Emily sighed. "We're on our way to rehab." Victor carefully examined the boy. "He's a bit behind, but shows good potential," he said. He knew doctors who had helped children like Freddy walk again. Suddenly, Victor realized he didn't want to let Emily and her son leave his life. He was ready to help her raise the sick child, to invest his time, energy, and resources to rehabilitate this fragile little boy. Maybe then the unbearable anxiety would finally leave Emily's beautiful turquoise eyes. Victor gently asked, "Where's your father?" Emily looked him straight in the eyes. "We're divorced, but he helps with the boy." The chance encounter stirred almost forgotten feelings in Emily when she saw Victor. She still loved his voice, his manner of speaking, his attentive, intelligent eyes. But now she couldn't even dream about him. And a sick child? Who needs such a burden? Victor, so successful, handsome, and talented, surely had many admirers. But he smiled at Emily's beloved face. Victor guessed what thoughts were running through her mind. Only now did he realize how much he had missed her. Despite his successful and busy life, something was always missing. And now he knew exactly what. Together they would overcome all obstacles. He would never let Emily go or give up on her, just like in their youth. Now, finally, they would be happy.